In terms of some updates for the group and as well the region, we're now a user group. So I don't know how many people may have been aware of this, but Salesforce announced to group leaders that there was the possibility of changing their groups from a specific type of group, such as an admin or a developer group, to a user group. What that really means that we actually are a group that is there essentially for everybody, rather than being more of an admin group, which is how we initially started. Although we did kind of keep sessions a bit more free for everybody, essentially, for that. But we were originally an admin group, but now we're a user group, so it gives us a bit more scope to kind of tap into different areas, rather than really having to focus more heavily on admin stuff going forward. We're now a co-led group. It's co-led by myself. So for those who haven't met me, I'm Mark. And I kind of started the group officially last year, but we had our first event in February this year. And we're also co-led with Luke Menzfeld, who will be one of the speakers in the panel a little bit later on. And just in terms of other things to know, we're hoping to schedule at least 2 more events, probably before the end of the year. Luke and I are chatting about what we want to do. So if you've got any thoughts on particularly sessions that you would like us to run, or even if you are willing to speak at sessions, we're always open to that as well. So you'll see on these slides, Luke and my Community Trailblazer email addresses are on there, so you can email us, or you can find us both on LinkedIn as well. So if you've got any ideas, or if you are open to speaking, feel free to get in touch with that. In terms of how we're going to meet, we're going to continue to meet virtually until it's deemed safe to do so, in person by Salesforce, by also local and countrywide guidance as well. So we're going to be continued to meet virtually, at least for now. And we'll hear about it a little bit more during one of our presenter sessions. We've got Claudia Wootten speaking as part of our panel session a little bit, but we've got a women in tech group that started in Newcastle, and Claudia will be telling us a little bit about that as well. Okay, so that's kind of all the announcement waffle done, and we're going to move into the panel discussion. So a quick transition in and about tonight's session. We have 2 guest speakers. We have Susanna Taylor from Parkdean Resorts and Claudia Wootten from Turnitin, who have, as I mentioned, is also the group leader for the Women in Tech group in Newcastle. And so we've got both Susanna and Claudia, and Luke and myself are kind of 2 of the panelists as well. We are going to be able to take questions in this. So if you've got a question for a specific speaker during their panel bit, if you've got questions that you think of during that, feel free to put it into the chat, and we will look at asking each panelist a question after their segment. Alternatively, if you don't think of a question at that point, but you think of a question for say Susanna during Claudia's slot, we are going to hopefully have an open floor if we've got time, where you can ask questions as well directly to them, or you can just ask questions in general. As I've said during the segments for the speakers, it'll be really helpful for us for a technical perspective if people can keep the microphones off. That will just help us just in terms of the recording and any potential internet issues. You can feel free to leave your camera on if you wish to. That's absolutely fine. But with that being said, as I said, we are joined in the panelists by myself and Luke Menzfeld. We are the co-leaders of this user group. I'm data coordinator with Oasis Community Housing, which is a non-profit charity based predominantly in the Northeast. Our head office is in Newcastle. Well, technically Gateshead, we're at the Metro Centre now. And Luke is based with TechnipFMC, and we'll get into our stories in just a short bit. And as well, as I've mentioned, joined by Susanna Taylor and Claudia Wootten. So first up on the docket is me for this, and I'm going to try and keep this as short and sweet as we can, because I'm always conscious of the fact that if I'm introducing stuff, I don't want to be waffling on for 20 minutes to half an hour before we get to anybody else. So a bit about where I work. So as I mentioned, I work with Oasis Community Housing, and we work with approximately 2,000 individual people a year across 17 different projects, and they span the Northeast and London, as we have projects in Suffolk and Croydon. So my role in that organisation is to be the data coordinator. So I act as the sole system admin for Oasis Community Housing, where we have a Salesforce org built on a managed app called Info, which was developed by HomelessLink. So my job is to look after that, and I've been doing that since 2017. And since August last year, I've been kind of working on redeveloping that work as well, because we found that we had some challenges around, particularly how the data was being collected. So I've been working on developing that further, as it was pretty much already set in stone when I joined in 2017. So we had purchased it in 2015. About me personally, so I've been a Salesforce user since 2016. My baptism of fire, if you will, was me starting to work for a youth work charity in Gateshead. And at the job interview, they'd asked me if I'd seen Salesforce before. And at the time, my dad, who was still with us, was working for Honeywell, and they have a massive Salesforce org. So I'd seen bits and pieces of how they do stuff in the back end and things like that from there. So my response interview was, I've seen it, but I haven't used it before. I got offered the job, and my first day in work, they said to me, okay, you've said you've seen Salesforce, build us an org. So that was my start to using Salesforce, having to build an org from scratch with no prior experience as an end user of Salesforce. I had previously worked as a database assistant prior to that for another charity, which was just basically inputting data and downloading that into spreadsheets essentially. So it was a steep learning curve for that. As I mentioned, I'm the sole admin for our Salesforce org, which was built on the managed app called Informed by HomelessLink. But my background is in office administration. I was trained in all honesty, I failed college, and so I went into an apprenticeship in business administration, and then after that went into print technicianry when I was a printing technician for 5 years. And in my spare time, I'm a Christian, and I'm going to be studying theology as well, so I'm doing that alongside all of my own other stuff as well, which is as well, there's quite a bit of Salesforce in that as well. I manage 2 orgs for Oasis Community Housing, the main org that all the staff use, and an admin org, which I've been developing to kind of help me manage my work with that, and all the things I have to do, like training staff members, looking after the licenses that we have in the main org. So I've been building an admin org for that, which is a developer org, but I refer to as an admin org because it's an org for me as the administrator. I've spoken to 2 Salesforce conferences on the subject I mentioned a little bit earlier on about me redeveloping the org that we already have. I've done delivery sessions around that at 2 different conferences in the last 12 months. Did spoke in Inspire East last October, and then I spoke at X Plenty in April this year. And since February 2020, I've been a Trailhead mentor through the Trailhead Mentorship Program. And I'm also hoping to get my first certification by the end of this year. Surprisingly, I haven't actually done a certification yet, but I hope to get my first one under my belt before the beginning of before early 2021, should I say. And mention as well, being a user group leader, technically since last year, but really more or less since the beginning of this year. So personal circumstances got in the way of sorting up things last year. I've also built 2 additional orgs for other charities in the Northeast area. So I've done work for other people as well. outside of my day job, and both of them have been done voluntarily as just like I guess a way to help people that I know who's trying to get stuff going off the ground for how they do database management in their work as well. Interests. I'm particularly interested in kind of building orgs to meet bespoke requirements of the organization that they're relevant to. So like ensuring that they can do what they need to do with their Salesforce orgs. So I spend a lot of time developing custom orgs. I've got a few developer orgs I use just for like practice and testing around and just trying to learn new skills. And I've built a couple of orgs for other charities as well. Particularly interested in making those orgs mobile friendly as well, using the Salesforce app so that actually they can do what they do on a desktop version on the go. I'm also spending a lot of time learning about flows. I'm still fairly new to flows. Only really started using flows in February or January this year. But a little story on that was I'd seen something that I didn't know was a flow about 3 years ago at a conference, and I spotted it. I want to be able to do that in our org for Oasis, and spoke to the person who was doing the session afterwards, and he told me it was from a flow, gave me some guidance, and then just work got so busy I wasn't able to pick up on it for a couple of years afterwards. But once I started learning, it's kind of become like a little interest of mine with work, learning how to gradually build up to more complex flows and see what I can do. And as you can imagine, with being a trainer mentor, I'm also very interested in helping other people learn about Salesforce, learn to grow and develop in that area. In terms of tooling interest for me, I'm really high on particularly a new implementation that Salesforce brought in. I remember actually chatting with Jack Holdsworth, who is another group leader down in Leeds, about this thing, because wouldn't it be great if admins could just say click a checkbox and different fields would appear or disappear. And this was in November last year, and it got mentioned to me, it's coming. Did you not notice? And turns out what that was is what has come in the summer 20 release, which is called Dynamic Forms. And I'm really kind of interested in kind of seeing how that grows and develops. And I've been using that a lot since it came out. It's really, really fantastic. I love it. Again, flows, mentioned flows already. Just really like how flows can really kind of get data that you need coming in. And almost, I like the idea of making things sort of like a Google form approach for work in some ways, so we can get staff to actually fill in what we want them to fill in when we can't have those fields required, but we want them to fill them in. The collaborative roll-up summaries as well, I use that as a third-party app, and I'm very interested in seeing how that continues to grow and develop. I think it's a fantastic tool because I really like being able to see in certain objects how other objects affect that. And if I have say for example, how many contacts have say we have our contacts are linked to records called casework. So if I want to see how many people have got a casework, I like to be able to see things like that appear on potentially the main contact page without making it too cluttery as well. Very high in document generation tools as well. In my line of work, that's the biggest request I have from our staff coming through was, can we get all of this stuff into Word documents or PDFs? So I'm very high on kind of working with that.
Are you working with anything at the minute, Mark, in relation to that, like Conga, or do you have any document generation tools that you're using?
Yeah, so I am using at the moment, in my admin org, I'm using TS Documents. I think that's a good, it's not as strong as Conga in some ways. However, it does what I needed to do. And in terms of the cost, it's a lot cheaper. It's £5 a user per month
Okay.
to use TS documents, where Conga is quite a lot higher. But Conga is fantastic as well. I've tried Conga as well in the trials. So I use TS documents. But in the main org, Homeless Inc. are developing their own document generation tool. So I'm waiting to see kind of how that works out for our main org. And then like map integration, I think being able to see, say like I work for homelessness charity, as I mentioned, and we have numerous different properties. So being able just to see straight from, say, the record page where the property is on a map is really helpful to us. So I'm also interested in that, and also putting all of our properties on like a map on a single page. Project tracking as well. So if I've got a project, I want to be able to see kind of the progress of that. And then, as a lot of admins are, reporting analytics, I think it's a big thing for us, and it's one of the ones I'm interested in working through and actually getting better at. Particularly interested in maybe starting to learn Einstein analytics. I've seen some of the stuff from there, and it looks really good, and I haven't really had that much time to touch it yet. But that's me, really.
Okay. There's no sort of questions coming through in the group, but one thing I'll be interested just to ask you briefly is how do you find it being a solo admin at your company? You know, where do you seek engagement with people to talk about things related to Salesforce? How's that for you?
Yeah. The challenge I kind of had for a long time was almost being on a bit of an island, you know, where there isn't really anybody in my workplace I can talk to about some of the challenges that I have at times with Salesforce, because they are very admin specific, very specific to my role. So if I went to approach somebody else about any issue I was having with say for example, I was working on a formula that I just couldn't figure out why it wasn't validating in the way it should do, at least in my head. In my organization, I've got nobody I can go to about that.
Okay.
So I found that actually building a group of people that I can actually just touch base with, go, hey, look, I'm struggling with this. What do you think? I think that's a really good thing to have, and that's one of the reasons actually why I wanted to start a user group.
Nice.
We're kind of being a little bit selfish. I wanted to kind of build something that, because I was thinking in my head, if I want this as an admin, surely there's going to be other people who are admins, devs, etc., who are going to want the same thing, where there's people in the region that they can say meet up with, you know, go on to Zoom with and what have you, and just chat about Salesforce. Even if it's not like to go through things that they're struggling with, but just to kind of chat about things like that. So I'm also part of a user group for people who use the Inform app that I mentioned that we use with our Salesforce org. And oftentimes we just chat around kind of what things as admins annoy us, that we see coming through. Like we regularly have bits of also how many password reset requests have you had this month? And I think just things like that, because being on your own as an admin can be very isolating, particularly because it's such a different job to what end users generally would do as well, where most of the end users I work are just literally inputting data. You're having to go in and kind of check that all the data that should be inputted is being inputted, that like I have to do all the reporting on our KPIs. And so I found that sometimes being on my own can be a bit challenging in that regard, but that's also one reason why I want to start the user group.
Okay, sounds good. And we got a good suggestion from Paul on the chat there about a link to a tool to help you testing formulas with fake data. So when I'm speaking up next, you can you can make a note of that one. It might help you in the future. Cheers for that, Paul. Great.
Okay. So next we're going to have Luke up, and I'm going to stop sharing my screen.
Yeah, that's great.
And then Luke can hop on.
No problem. So I'm just going to share. Okay, sorry, just to confirm, are you seeing my PowerPoint slides just now? Okay, perfect. Thanks. Okay, so I'm really pleased to be here tonight in the capacity as Mark's co-lead of this group. It's something that's been developing for a little bit of time now, and I'm really pleased to see it happen. And you know, from me and Mark having a conversation quite a long time ago to being here today, there's been a lot of positive sort of development. So I'm pleased to be here. So I thought, sort of similar to Mark, I've just got some slides to give you a bit of information about myself, professionally, personally, just a bit of insight into my interest with Salesforce, just to set the scene really for this user group. I'll try to be quite strict on time since it's running away with us already, and cover a little bit of things here. So professionally, I've always worked as an analyst with data, with systems, with sort of communication and process. I've got a very sort of keen interest in business and the performance of business, as well as system development, technology, sharing of information. I think Salesforce is a fantastic platform for change. I'll talk about that a little bit later. And one of my main passions really is about analytics and reporting and the ability to tell stories with data. So I think the system design has got an incredibly important role to play in how we capture data, but I'm really interested in the stories that data can tell. And I know that that's only one part of a bigger picture, but I think we should make sure that the data story is a good one. Just a little bit about me personally, a few little bit of insights. So I play rugby locally. It's a game which I love and I'm quite invested in. Just a bit oddballs, but I quite like vintage motorcycles as well, British ones. My last two statements are very assertive, but I would like to commit to them. But one day I would really like to publish something in Harvard Business Review, something I've subscribed to for quite a long time, and I would like to make that a reality. And I would also like to ride a motorcycle on the Bonneville Salt Flats in America. So on my lifetime bucket list. Just a couple of little bits insight into me there for you guys. Okay, so let me just see why I seem to be unable to go down. Right, here we go. Just in terms of why the user group, and Mark touched on this for some of his reasons, but I'll just give you some of mine as well. Originally, when I looked to start to connect to user groups, the closest one was in Leeds, which is not so far from Newcastle. But after attending one or two events down in Leeds, I thought, you know, there mustn't be a need to travel. There must be a community of Salesforce users in the north, and I wanted to sort of explore that. And I think I've got a passion for work that's happening within the region, so I want to connect to, like Mark, recognize and celebrate digital talent that's in the north. I think there's a lot happening that we might not be aware of. I'm willing to share some of my experiences, and I certainly want to hear yours. I'm willing to learn from others, as well as passively learn on that I can. And I think one of the real positives I feel about Salesforce is that you, as a career, you can have a choice and you can make an impact and you can make a change. So I'll tell anybody that's willing to listen about how I think they can do that with Salesforce. And, you know, so I would like to raise that awareness, positive awareness of Salesforce in the region to all different kinds of users. So that's some of my whys behind joining the user group. In terms of my day job at TechnipFMC operate in the international oil and gas industry. So as well as being involved in everything to do with subsea engineering and extraction of oil and gas, they're also involved in processing of oil and gas and petrochemicals, and really almost sort of every segment related to oil and gas. So I'm personally based in Walker in Newcastle, and I am based out of a subsea cable manufacturing facility, which is one of multiple facilities worldwide. TechnipFMC is a large company. It has a lot of people globally. In terms of Salesforce, our setup, we have two Lightning orgs, which accommodate 900 users over 6 different business units. And we're currently utilizing Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, and within both of those, you know, clouds, we have multiple integrations to some of our SAP is one of our ERP systems, but a number of other platforms. But I would say at its core, we use Salesforce for the front end of the business, commercially, predominantly as a CRM platform. We, just as a further bit of reference, we integrate Salesforce with Microsoft Power BI, and that's running all of our management reporting across all of the different business units. So the systems connect directly, obviously, to each other. There's a passive information, and we've built up a real significant amount of management reporting that is automated and replicated in Power BI. And honestly, the difference in that journey from where we are today versus 18 months ago has been astronomical. We've really gone through a journey with that. And so I'm keen to see how Einstein and Tableau and Alteryx and all of these other tools and intelligence tools, how they integrate and where that might go. Brief bit of insight, just do a timing check. Yeah, brief bit of insight into my role as a program manager. I think this is good to cover because a program manager, in my industry could be different to somebody else. But what I've tried to do here is just give you guys an insight into some of the things that I work on. So for our business, I would be considered as the business owner of the platform. So I'd be the point of contact that would talk on behalf of the development of the different business units. I help shape the development plan for the system, but I'm also very much hands-on in the platform as well. So as a data analyst, as well as an admin in its truest sense from Salesforce, I do the simpler side of declarative developments myself. But we have a development partner that does the sort of the heavy legwork for us on the development side of things, and I manage that relationship directly. So if we've got a business need, I work with them to scope that out and then deliver that solution. Governance is a very important issue. I quite like talking about governance. So if we get the chance in the future and you want to talk to me about governance, that's a good project. And also, I'm working with different subject matter experts and planning for the system. So there's just a bit of insight into some of the things I'm doing there. And I've just got some very brief examples. There's a one slide here which I use just to keep track of different enhancements or functionality which I'm providing to the system. So for one of our business units, here's just a visual overview of some of the things that we've achieved in the quarter. Some are functionality, some are housekeeping, but we have all these different levels of roadmaps for different business units, and trying to consolidate them globally is tough. Yeah, everybody's seen a dashboard, but here's just an example. The tiles which you can see on these are related to data quality and integrity. So the tiles are different measures of data quality. It's a dynamic dashboard which responds to the user that is viewing it. We color coded it like a traffic light system to show what's good, requires attention, or bad, from green, amber, and red. So it's not something so technical, but practically it's very effective for us in helping get a view of data, probably data completion, maybe rather than quality, because it's hard to measure. There's not so much here to show, to be honest. It's just a standard dashboard. And the report that you can see here on screen, so this is coming from Power BI. So we connect Power BI to Salesforce, but within Power BI, just as an example here, we just developed a tool to summarize the changes in data from one month to the next month. And again, it sounds simple, but a lot of what we've built related to planning for different departments within the business has really sort of been, not revolutionary, it's a strong word, but it's been very, very effective for us because it's just saving people so much time. So we've got a good system designed to collect information. We've got a good tool to report on it. I'm only going to pick out a couple of bits here because I don't want to take up time from our main speakers. I'd completed my admin and app builder certifications. I'm actively involved in Trailhead, and I have my Einstein exam and Sales Cloud consultant booked up. First event today with the community group lead. And I'd like the opportunity to just engage more with the ecosystem and you guys in the future. So I don't really need to cover so much there. And I think finally, just to conclude, and I so strongly believe in this, I think Our working lives are too short to work with poor systems. And I think we've got, through Salesforce and the platform, I think we can change that. So I don't want to spend my life complaining about the inefficiency of systems. So I will proactively try to make sure that they work better. And I think we could all do the same. So thank you for listening to that. And hopefully, Mark, I've not spoke for too long there. I've just stopped sharing my screen now. That's just a bit of an introduction from me to you guys.
Well, that's great. Well, thanks, Luke, for doing that. Just quickly before we pass on to Susanna, we did have a question that came in, so I'm going to hop on that, but I'm also going to add a sub-question onto that, which is, so the question came in from Claudia, which is, why did you choose Power BI? But what I'm going to add onto it is, for anybody who may not know what Power BI is, can you kind of give a very brief explanation of what that is, just in case anybody's here hasn't heard of it?
So in my view would be that Microsoft Power BI is a reporting engine, or like a business intelligence and reporting engine that allows you to connect to data sources and produce visual outputs. It's very comprehensive in terms of what it can achieve. The main reason we had to go to Power BI was because the limitations of Salesforce reporting only allowed us to combine 2 or 3 objects together in a report. And more often than not, we needed to combine the results of data far beyond that. So that was our initial reason for going to Power BI. Secondly, within our organization, from a licensing standpoint, we had something like 30,000 Power BI licenses because of an Office 365 agreement we had that was cheaper than sourcing an alternative. So when the 2 of them linked together, we had licenses available. And the tool's fantastic, to be honest. I'd prefer it all in one platform, but it's very effective and a more cost-effective way of using Salesforce information wider in the business for people that might not need to access it directly.
Great. That sounds really, really good, Luke. So I'm going to now turn my screen back on and pass over to Susanna, who's going to go through, tell us a little bit about herself and how she has used Salesforce and what Parkdean Resorts are doing. So over to you, Susanna.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everybody. So if we just move through to my first slide. So if you don't know about Parkdean Resorts already, it is a holiday company in the UK. We have 67 holiday park locations dotted around the country, creating amazing memories. That's our tagline. And I think particularly, well, maybe not right now because it's pouring down, but for this year, holidays in the UK are going to be really, really important for everybody. So this slide that we're looking at now is really looking at the kind of the technical background, the business setup, rather than the people being on holiday part of it. So the business that we're looking at was formed through a merger of 2 businesses. That's 5 years ago now. And we've got 4 main income streams across all of those 67 parks that we have. So we've got, we're selling holiday homes. So we're selling caravans and chalets and lodges. We've also got people coming in just to rent a caravan for a week or 2 weeks. And then once we've got people who've bought a holiday home, we're also providing ongoing support and management for those owners. And we also then have on-park retail, so things like food and beverages and activities that people can do. So you can see that we've got really broadly located user base. We've got a broad number of things that are going on. We've also got a couple of companies that have come together. So you can see that there's a lot of different things going on, and it's very diverse, and that brings challenges, but it's also really brings us a lot of great opportunities. So this is kind of one of the key things that has driven Parkdean Resorts in their decision to use Salesforce as a platform, because you can think all of these things, well, we can do that in one place and get that single view of our customers. So our holiday makers who are coming for a week on a park, well, maybe we can convert those people into owners who are going to stay with us and holiday with us every year. If you move on to the next slide. So this is a very Salesforce-y slide. So this is kind of looking at all of the different business functions that we have or are bringing in to our Salesforce implementation. You can see it is really, really broad. And the point of me showing you this slide is to show you this is kind of the thing that sold the role to me. This is what excites me about Salesforce, and what excites me about the role that I'm doing is that we really are going from the initial marketing that we've got right at the first part of that. We're going all the way through the sales journey. We've got looking at implementing mobile solutions, forecasting. We're then doing CPQ and billing. We're getting all of our discounting, all of our plans around that. We're doing all of the paying, then all of the ongoing membership. So we have communities, have field service, all of this stuff. So all the way through the journey from that initial grow pipeline point through to the creating advocates. So really having a positive experience for our owners and members, and just having that single view of that person all the way through that journey it's really exciting. And it's just actually to have the opportunity to do this, I think, is quite rare. So it just makes me happy to look at that. If you want to move on to the next slide, I realise I'm ripping through this fairly fast, but I don't think we need to hang on to it. So this is just a view of what work we've got on at the moment in our Salesforce program. So the first three in that list in the red are the things that we currently have live with our system. So we've got Sales and Marketing Cloud, and we recently went live with the digital engagement piece. So there we have two-way SMS, live chat with chatbots, and Facebook. We will be going live with WhatsApp as well in the near future. So that has been, so I think the initial implementation went live before I joined in April of last year. So that's really, it's still quite a large amount of change in the last year or so. We've also, the green lines are looking at what we're building at the moment. So these are the CPQ and billing are in development at the moment. So we've got a team of users who are working with a team of consultants to really drive out what our functional requirements are and get the right stuff built so that we are driving value for the business, driving value for the customers, and getting a good customer experience. So it's been really interesting learning about that, because again, it's not something that I've had the opportunity to do before. And I think it's going to be huge for our business.
Across those different clouds you've identified, Susanna, where does your personal interest lie? So, you know, we've seen Sales Cloud, Marketing Cloud, the digital engagement, the CPQ. Where do you sit on? Where's your interests?
I wouldn't say it was particularly a cloud. The thing that I like about Salesforce in particular is the interaction between the declarative that you can do and how you can seamlessly enhance that with code. So I'm a developer by nature.
Okay.
But actually bringing in, it's enabling people, it's making it that technology accessible. So, Mark was talking about flows, and really, if you can build a flow, you can write code. They're very, very similar in structure. Syntax may be different, but so that's what I really like, is how far can you take the declarative stuff? How far should you take that? Where do you need to step off into using code? What's the best way to get the structure that's going to work at the scale that you need?
Yeah.
So it's probably the more that we're looking across all of these things, the more that kind of becomes important. Because if we looked at each of these elements in isolation, I think we'd end up in a lot of trouble.
And I'm sorry, I know you've got a couple of other slides, but there's a question that might be appropriate now from Angela just raised, to ask if you're using any Einstein capabilities at Parkdean.
We have an Einstein chatbot, which was gone live in the last couple of weeks. But in terms of predictions, not yet. I say yet, I haven't floated that idea yet. And I'd really like to get next best action going in, but that's another one that's will be a little bit further down the line. It's not in the list. So, but I think I don't know if many people have come across the next best action prediction builder, but it can be really, really powerful as a way of interacting with customers and helping contact center agents have really engaging conversations with their customers that they have on the phone.
Excellent.
So yeah, we've talked about what we've delivered and what's actually in progress. So all of our billing and CPQ, and so the next three are the future, the pipeline, the safe harbor, forward-looking statement kind of stuff. So again, it's really bringing that end-to-end customer 360 view. So how can we build more and more of the customer experience into the platform with Community Cloud? So we've got our owners who are able to view their bills, pay their bills. I haven't talked about signing up for activities through the Community Cloud, but there's so many options there. But I think one of the things, people need to be able to book services, book deep cleans, book winterization of their caravans, and they'll be able to do that from their mobile device logged into the community. So then that obviously follows into Service Cloud and Field Service Lightning, so that all of the maintenance engineers that are traveling around our parks in the country will be able to look after all of the maintenance jobs that they have. We had a demo of that today, which is the first time I've really seen it in action, and I'm really quite excited about that now. So thanks. This is just a little bit about me. So I didn't start out in IT. I started out in geophysics. And yeah, I ended up working in Dublin, writing computer models of earthquake systems. And then through a variety of interesting job choices, which included training as a teacher, but never actually being a teacher, I ended up working for Accenture, and I was invited to go on a Dev 401 training course in 2012. So I turned up to the training course knowing nothing about Salesforce at all. But I did the exam and started working in Salesforce. And so yeah, my first certification was Developer 401. The most recent one that I got was the sharing and visibility designer, and I would say that the exams for the application architect are really interesting. The learning is in depth and can be a bit challenging, but I did find it really interesting doing the learning for those. I'm planning on doing advanced administrator, but I think I'm probably setting myself up for it by admitting that now before I've done the exam. So yeah, I worked for Accenture for several years with Salesforce since 2012 with Accenture, and then joined Parkdean Results in July of last year. And this is the last set there is just about what I've been interested in at the moment. So I'm doing some learning about online payment processing and also Einstein chatbots, because we've got payment processing coming in and chatbots have only just gone live. But now that I've seen Field Service Lightning, I'm basically Magpie-like, absolutely just desperately interested in learning more about that.
That's brilliant, Susanna. Thank you very much. It's a really good insight into what's happening locally with you guys at Parkdean. It's very varied, wide.
It is.
Best across that. But no, really good. I enjoyed that. Thank you.
Thank you.
So before we pass on to Claudia, was there any more questions in there, Luke, or have we covered them all?
No, I think because we sort of had a couple of questions in the middle, there's nothing else that's raised on the chat, just a question from Angela. So I think we're good to really good to proceed unless there's anything else.
Great. Okay. So I'm going to pass over to Claudia now, and so be able to share slides. And so just really over to you, Claudia.
Okay, thank you very much, Mark. So I'm going to kind of start where Susanna left off and sort of cover a different angle on Salesforce, kind of my journey in Salesforce, how I've ended up here, and I will talk a little bit about what we're doing at Turnitin with Salesforce and some of our ambitions. So this is my favorite slide of all time. I started out as a computer programmer in 1989. I know I don't look old enough, thank you for saying it. I was a COBOL engineer, and Dilbit was the height of popularity then, and we made jokes about you know, having zeros and ones, and it was all very techy. I ended up as a COBOL programmer quite by accident. Left school with a load of O levels and A levels that wouldn't have thought or pointed to the direction of me becoming a computer programmer. However, I did, as I say, a little bit by accident, but that's a different story for another day. And I've had what is now nearly 31 years career in technology that has taken me all over the world. And I've worked for across a wide range of technologies, as I say, starting off with COBOL, and finished up here in 2020 with Salesforce, which is a place that I absolutely love. And one of the missions that I like to talk about is how people can get into the Salesforce ecosystem and how they can build really fascinating and interesting careers in the Salesforce ecosystem. I think, Luke, you were kind of alluding to this as well a little bit. You know, I'm fascinated by technology, always have been, but actually when I think about my career, it's not the technology, but the business and the business enablement and business transformation that has always fascinated me. And it's always been about the people and what we can achieve together. So as I say, I started off COBOL program at the Prescription Pricing Authority. I'm now Senior Director of Business Systems and Sales Operations at Turnitin. And I've been on a journey by way of banking, airline, civil service and logistics. And if you really want to know all about that, then follow or connect with me on LinkedIn. So my Salesforce journey is probably quite different to some people's. We've had 3 people talk today about their journey, them being quite technical, then sort of starting off with admin or a technical background. I came to Salesforce when I was head of sales effectiveness at British Airways, which had been quite a sidestep for me in my career anyway. I'd been in technology IT up to about 2010, and then I was given an opportunity to move into a more commercial role at the airline. And that's when I implemented Salesforce to around 1,000 users at British Airways and Iberia, where I was, as I say, leading up the business-to-business sales effectiveness. So we moved from Siebel to Salesforce, which was an amazing journey for anyone that's ever used Siebel. At British Airways, we had a completely over-customized version of Siebel that was almost practically impossible to use, and we had certainly been told would be impossible to upgrade on the Siebel Oracle upgrade track. So we had to do something quite radical, and Salesforce was the technology that we chose, and I am very personally grateful that we did, and I got the opportunity to start building a fascinating career in the world of Salesforce. I did do a little bit of Microsoft collaboration technology for a couple of years in between, but I always wanted to get back into the world of Salesforce, and a few years ago I took up a role as Salesforce program manager for a global logistics company called Brambles, where we implemented Salesforce globally to over 3,000 users. It was Sales Cloud. They are since moving on to implement Pardot and other cloud technologies, but I implemented Sales Cloud for them, and that really rekindled my love of Salesforce, and that's how I kind of ended up back here in the Northeast, working at Turnitin as a senior director, so sales operations and systems, and we have Salesforce here at Turnitin, which I will come on to some of the work we're doing in a little bit. But I just wanted to kind of show you my journey with Salesforce. So I'm not admin certified. I'm not 401 developer, platform developer. In fact, I don't have any Salesforce certifications. I came to Salesforce more in a leadership role. And at the time, I probably didn't particularly engage with any of the certifications or with any of the Trailhead. And it's only been in the last couple of years that I've started getting into Trailhead. And now I'm really quite proud of my 30 badges and my 90-year status. Obviously, I'm hoping that at some point in the near future, I do make it to Ranger. Whether I then go and do my admin certification, I don't know. Maybe some of my team who are on here today might be able to advise me if that's something I should do or should stick well clear of becoming an admin. So I just wanted to show that actually, you know, Salesforce is a world, Salesforce ecosystem is a world that embraces people at different levels and with different capabilities, and you know, you can build a very satisfying career and not be the most technical person in the room. But Trailhead is an amazing thing that I'm sure everyone on this call already knows. So Turnitin, who are Turnitin? So we're passionate about helping students learn. So we provide, so basically we're an ed tech company. We have software as a service, and we provide instructors with the tools to engage students in the writing process. So we do grading, assessment, authenticity of a student's work. Most people who've been through the university system in the last few years will probably be pretty familiar with Turnitin. I think it's mostly called the plagiarism checker, but we do have so many more tools and capabilities than just that plagiarism and anti-copying or anti-cheating technology that we provide. So we're used by more than 30 million students, which is quite a massive achievement. And as I say, we're an ed tech company that's HQ'd in Oakland in California. But, you know, through acquisition and happenstance, we have a very vibrant and growing office here in Newcastle. And I am growing our Salesforce team here in the Northeast, which feels like an amazing thing to be doing. You know, we're busier than ever in these online days where education is moving more online. So we're providing a really valuable service to higher education and secondary education across the globe. And Salesforce is the tool that we use. We use it basically from sales right through to basically orders and invoicing. It's, I would say, our main back office tool as well as our CRM. We have Sales Cloud, Service Cloud, Communities, Pardot. We've got a bit of everything going on here at Turnitin. We're not a massive company. We've got about 350 users, but we have a very wide range of capability that's been built up over 16 years. So our org here at Turnitin is 16 years old, which when I say that to people in the Salesforce world, they usually look reasonably impressed because it is pretty old in terms of Salesforce, which, you know, it's nice, but it also has some very, it has its minus points as well. And as I've come to Turnitin, I joined here in April to take over this role. And I've come to work with an amazing team. But one of the things that we're now trying to solve is that we've got an old org. We've got some very highly customized and complex processes that we've built in Salesforce. We've got a lot of fields, a lot of data. We're trying to do a lot of things in Salesforce. We're not doing it in a very streamlined way. So we have implemented Project Trailblaze, which kicks off next week. And we're going to be working with Slalom Consulting to review. We're going to enter into a discovery phase where we're going to review our kind of opportunity to invoice process with the aim of delivering these outcomes. So we want to reduce our complexity, increase our speed of people working through that process, especially once we get to the point where you know, we're issuing quotes and we're closing opportunities, we're you know, creating quotes and licensing our customers. We've got a ton of manual intervention that's grown up over 16 years, and we want to start removing that, using the strength of Salesforce to build ourselves a much more integrated workflow. We struggle with forecasting and reporting, which is why I'm always interested in what other companies are doing. And we hope to, you know, from the ground up, rebuild our forecasting and reporting capability. And one of the interesting things is that we want to try and, if not reduce, at least contain our total cost of ownership. So, you know, we're looking to exploit out of the box functionality where we can and avoid customization, not at all cost. We do need customization. That's something that Salesforce is amazing at supporting. But, you know, where we don't need to customize, we shouldn't, because it does increase cost of ownership over time. Governance is something we're going to work on. And, you know, to your point, Luke, I think it would be a great topic for a future meeting to talk about how different organizations implement governance around Salesforce, not only sort of the technical, you know, how you manage your environments and sandboxes, but also how you control and manage the user demand and you know, the change that you implement.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, and the last thing, you know, I'm really a big advocate of change management in education. So, you know, Salesforce is an amazing tool to support and help sales teams be effective. And to do that, they need to, you know, we need to build their professional sales capability, and we aim to do that with the power of Salesforce. So that's what we're doing at Turnitin. And then I just wanted to, as Mark, the Newcastle upon Tyne Women in Tech group for Salesforce. So this is one of Salesforce's groups, group types. you know, we're setting up this group for all women, allies, you know, gender non-binary individuals. We are here to embrace everyone who is interested in supporting the growth of women in the Salesforce ecosystem. As anyone who works in Salesforce will know, that the skills and capabilities that people have within the ecosystem are massively in demand. And, you know, historically, we recruit from a pool of male technologists and male, you know, people working in the ecosystem. It's like we're, you know, not bringing 50% of the population into that pool. So we want to keep, you know, getting the message out there that the Salesforce ecosystem is an amazing place to build a career, whether you are highly technical or not. You know, there's a route into Salesforce, and there's a role and an amazing career that you can build. And so I'm here a little bit sort of pimping this group out. We'd love for anyone on this call to join us. If you follow the Trailblazer community groups, we'll send the link out afterwards. Join the group. We're hoping to get our first virtual meeting set up in September, and we're looking to sort of ally and build sisterly bonds with other women in technology groups in the UK and even further afield. So we did kind of put together a little mission statement. Susanna helped me with this, and we kind of put our heads together and came up with these sorts of objectives for the group. But again, it's all about raising awareness and providing opportunities for people to build their networks and to build mentoring networks as well. And we're here to provide support and guidance. So, you know, I think I've certainly benefited from, you know, my career in the Salesforce ecosystem, and I'd love for other women to do just that. And I just thought I would end with this slide. So Susan Wojcicki here, who is the CEO of YouTube. I think this is a neat little reminder that, you know, we do need more women to you know, be part of technology and definitely be part of the Salesforce ecosystem. And just like I'd proven, you didn't need to start off with, you know, leaving school with technology or science or maths. You know, theatre studies and ceramics can do it as well. So don't be put off. And if anyone wants to connect with me and hear more about the Women in Technology group, please do. I'd love to talk to you all. So that's the end of my whiz through. We got any?
Thanks a lot for that, Claudia. That was great. Again, same as Susanna's, really good insight into what's happening, and I'm very excited for the growth of the Women in Tech group as well. I think that's something I fully support, and we'll do all that we can to help promote, because I think it's, again, it's another story we can tell in the area and generally, like you say, but really interesting to see how that evolves for you in the coming months. We did have, there was just one question from Susanna related to Turnitin, and she was just asking, how did you manage the transition to Lightning, and is it still ongoing? I wasn't sure if you're a classic org or a Lightning org.
We are a majority Lightning, and Lorraine, please do feel free to jump in if you want to. So Lorraine's on here, she's one of our business analysts, and she was actually around when the transition to Lightning happened. So Lorraine, do you want to?
Yeah, I was going to reply on chat, but I lost my screen. So we did Lightning by groups. So we did sales back in 2018. This was slightly before my time with Turnitin as well. So they had, so because Salesforce is used globally, we had to do it per region, and they had different teams help implement it. And it was a big struggle because Lightning is a completely different user experience to what we're used to. And then for other teams, we did it separately with the smaller teams. And now we're fully in Lightning for all our user groups. Ironically, us admins are the ones that are left back to Classic.
Yeah, there's a few stray elements that are still popping up as Classic when you're in admin, but yeah, I think that the team have managed it well, but I don't think it's been a massively easy journey, and this is why we're at the point where we really need to re-engineer kind of everything we've got. So we're looking forward to all the things that we're going to find on this journey.
Great.
I saw the question there about supermums. Absolutely. I just was connecting with Hazel and Paul the other day. So yeah, that's a great tip. She's very, what's the word? You know, she's just doing great things there with supermums. So it's good.
Great.
Thank you.
Great. So time has run away with us a little bit. So we are going to slightly change up things a bit. We said if we had time, we would do a bit of an open floor. However, what we'll do is once the event's officially finished, which will be finished in probably about 5 minutes or so, if anybody does want to stay on, we are more than happy to keep the Zoom meeting open, and people can like chat, ask questions and what have you there. But the last little bit that we've got to go through for tonight's event is a little bit of a surprise bit. So we've got some things to promote, and we also have a giveaway which we have specially sorted out for tonight. So the giveaway, if my slides decides to advance, is for one of 3 courses from David Giller at Brainy8, and basically what happens is the person who wins this will have the opportunity to sign up to one of these 3 courses for free, and you will be able to do all of the stuff in there. So the 3 courses that are available is Salesforce admin training in Lightning, which is somewhat relevant to one of the points we just raised tonight, you know. So if you say are a classic user and are considering transferring over to Lightning and you're an admin in this call, you know, that might be interesting to you. And there is also a personal branding course for Salesforce admins who want to supercharge their career. I will say on this one that this course, we did have like a taster session of this with the Leeds admin group about a month or so ago, which was just like a special user group event where David kind of like trimmed down a lot of the stuff on this course for that, and it was a fantastic session. So even if you're not an admin, that personal branding one's a really good one to do if you want to do that. And then the other course he's got an offer is how to clean your Salesforce org. As if you've had like an org for a long time, you probably have dealt with orgs where you've got like a lot of like unneeded fields, a lot of data that has been sitting there for years upon years. That,
or even for a short amount of time, Mark, as well.
Or even for a short amount of time, you know. There's always. I was saying this to Luke on the call yesterday that we had. There's always going to be a need to kind of to talk around best practices in terms of like keeping you all clean and, you know, ensuring that it's not like not cluttered really. So those are the 3 courses he has available, and how we're going to actually do this is through a random name generator. So I'm going to just go through and see if we can pick a winner. I don't know if you can see the screen, but I've got a little browser tab on my computer which will go through the names of who you have here tonight. If all we need from the person who wins is for them to provide us with their email address, as there's a form that Luke or I have to fill in for that. So we just run that giveaway, and let's see who we've got. And the winner that I've got is John Can. So John, if you're still on the call, all we need would be your email address. Are you still here, John?
Still here, yep.
Great.
Thanks
Excellent.
very much. I'll take that on. Thank you.
No worries. So let me just hop back into the presentation. So as I say, John, if you just pass us your email address after the event, we'll get that sorted out for you. A few things over to promote as well. What we'll say is all of the links relevant to what we are talking about in this section we'll put into the chat here, but we'll also put onto our chatter group on the Trailblazer community. So if you're not part of that, if you look for the Northeast UK user group on the Trailblazer community, you'll find stuff on there. We're also going to share the PowerPoint and the video from tonight on there as well. So this is a course that David's offering for free as well, which is it's out about how to simplify your Salesforce screens to delight your team. He's offering that for completely free. And so if you would like to do that, there is a link on the screen there, but as I say, we're also going to post that in the chat here and also on the chat group.
Link to that one in the chat, Mark, and just for anyone on the call, I think that I followed the sign up earlier this week, and it gives you access to, there's about, I think, an hour and 30 minutes of content split into 10 to 12 different chapters, just related to advice and guidance around simplifying the Salesforce stuff. So yeah, it looks good.
Great. And then, Luke, do you want to handle the next two ones?
Yeah, absolutely. If you can just go down to the next one. So, I mean, this is just to share with everybody. So 2 days ago, I was just made aware of the certification discount code that you can see on screen. So I'd had in mind to book an exam for some time. This popped up at the time, which just gave me a good prompt to do it. And there's a $100 discount code off any certification. So this was active for me 2 days ago. If anyone's on the cusp of booking a certification, you know, go for it. It's just a $100 discount on any certification there.
I've only just missed out on that.
Right, no problem. And then the next one, which I can't recommend enough to everybody, is to research the Trailhead Academy. So particularly if you're a user that is looking to either take your admin certification, your app builder certification, or platform developer 1. If you search for Trailhead Academy, they've got an incredible offer on all 3 of those courses at the minute, where you're basically getting 6 weeks worth of guided learning content, as well as your exam certification cost included at a heavily reduced rate. So I'm pretty certain that for like $199 or $200, you could have a 6-week guided learning through your admin certification, including the test at the end. The same for the platform app builder, and the same for platform developer 1. So I'm pretty sure that those discounts, you know, it's like a good $700 discount on the standard price. But if for anyone looking into those 3, I think it's a brilliant way to take that sort of preparation step by step, and it's a good discount. So check that out, Trailhead Academy online, and see what you guys make of that.
Great, cheers. And our last two little plugs are Paul Batterson, who is a co-leader of the Leeds developer group, who we are connected with as being part of like the North England user groups, has recently released a book called Learning Salesforce Development with Apex. And so if you're somebody who is interested in Apex development, why not pick up that book? And there's going to be a link appearing in the chat with a link to get that on Kindle at a heavily reduced rate. Or if you want to buy it in the paperback version, you can also buy in the paperback version on Amazon as well. Can't really speak highly enough of content like this. I have a ton of Salesforce books in my desk at work, and this is going to be one of the ones I'm going to be adding to my library, as it's always good to kind of learn new things. So I can't really recommend us getting hold of content like this enough.
And it's even better that Paul's joined us on the call today. So
absolutely, Paul is with us on the call today.
Join us here.
Thanks for sharing. If anyone, so there's a website connected to this where you can, where sort of you get to do an exercise at the end. So thanks for sharing this. I've been working with Salesforce now for about 11 years, something like that. And so completely self-taught programmer over 15, 20 years ago now. But this is meant to take you from the ground up all the way. So not a lot of the content that Salesforce have out there is very much based around if you're a Java developer or something like that. So this is designed to be completely from the ground up. I just want to also mention briefly the Trailhead Academy stuff that you spoke about before, Luke.
Yeah.
I think that $700 discount is not lasting forever. So I'm delivering one of the Platform Developer 1 courses coming October time. So I don't think that's going to last forever, but it's just like, it's free training. effectively. If you're going to take the the certification, you get the voucher and you just get free training. It's a no-brainer. Like I can't recommend the content enough. And hopefully, if you sign up soon, you can get the other trainer instead of me. So yeah, be quick on that front.
Great. And the last one that we've got to share, which, to be honest, Paul, you might want to tell us a little bit more about this one yourself, because this is your course on Udemy on Apex. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that? We're going to share a link on that where people can get a 25% discount on that if they want to do that.
Yeah, cheers. So, so the course is astronomical Apex testing. So, I'm a big fan of Apex testing and think it's the most important part of any development work. And so it's about, I think it's a bit over 2 hours where I cut out all the fluff and just try and dive into showing you how to do Apex testing very thoroughly. So it's 2 odd hours long. I think it's got 4.5 stars at the moment, something like that on Udemy, so people seem to think it's all right. And yeah, there's a 25% link off there. Yeah, thanks for sharing these tonight, everyone, and just it's really good to see this group. I was looking earlier on at pictures from the very first developer group we ran, so that was back in 2012. And so yeah, we have the Leeds developer group. We are now the Leeds developer group. We used to be the North UK one, but thankfully there's now a lot more of us, so we can do others. But yeah, we'll be having some more sessions soon as well, just to push that one if anyone is interested. Yeah, they'll be on the chatter group as well. But thanks for sharing.
No problem at all.
Cheers, Paul. And that really kind of brings us to the end of tonight's session. As we said, if anybody does want to stay on and chat, we can keep the call open for a bit longer. But thank you very much for joining us. And as we mentioned, we'll hopefully be running at least 2 more events before the end of the year, and we'll post them out via the usual means through Trailblazer community and via the chatter group for those who may be interested in joining them. So with that being said, just want to say thank you all for coming, and say if you want to stick around, feel free, and I'll end the recording here.